The biggest mistakes in your life didn't come from bad luck. They came from words you never needed to say. You didn't lose respect because you were weak. You lost it because you talked when silence would have protected you. You didn't reveal your plans by accident. You revealed them because your mouth wanted validation. Your mouth feels like freedom, but it's actually a leak. A leak of power. A leak of mystery. A leak of control. And the world is always listening. Most people think danger comes from enemies. No, your mouth is your first enemy. The moment you open your mouth, you give the world something to work with. Information, emotion, intent, weakness, silence keeps you protected. Speech makes you readable. This is the first truth most people never learn. Why the mouth is so dangerous. Your mouth is fast. Your brain is emotional. The world is strategic. That mismatch is deadly. Most people don't speak because it's necessary. They speak because they're uncomfortable with silence. Silence makes them feel invisible. So they talk to feel seen. And in doing so, they expose everything. Every time you explain yourself, you lower your value. Every time you overshare, you hand someone leverage. Every time you react verbally, you lose control of the frame. Powerful people don't rush to speak. Not because they're shy, because they understand timing is power. The illusion, I'm just being honest. Honesty without strategy is self-destruction. People say, I'm just being real, I speak from the heart. I don't hide anything. What they're actually saying is, I don't know how to protect myself. The world does not reward raw honesty. It rewards controlled disclosure. When you talk too much, people learn what hurts you, what excites you, what you're insecure about, what you fear losing, and once someone knows that, they don't need to attack you directly. They just press the right word at the right time. Words create records. Silence leaves no evidence. Anything you say can be repeated, twisted, used later, taken out of context. Silence leaves nothing behind. People regret words far more than silence, yet they keep talking. Why? Because talking gives instant relief, while silence gives long-term power. Relief feels good now. Power pays later. Weak people choose relief. Strategic people choose power. The mouth reveals your inner state. Your mouth is a mirror. When you're insecure, gives you when you're nervous, gives you talk faster. When you want approval, gives you talk longer. When you feel threatened, gives you react. A calm, centered person doesn't feel the urge to fill silence. They don't rush to prove. They don't rush to defend. They don't rush to explain why. Because people who matter don't need explanations. And people who don't matter don't deserve them. Over-explaining is a silent apology. The moment you over-explain, you signal guilt, even when you've done nothing wrong. You turn a neutral situation into a defensive one. You say more. They listen less, but they judge more. Silence, on the other hand, forces others to reveal themselves. When you don't speak, they talk, they guess, they project, they expose their intentions. Silence makes other people uncomfortable, and discomfort makes people careless. That's power. Talking turns you into an open book. An open book is easy to read, easy to predict, easy to manipulate. People don't manipulate strength. They manipulate patterns, and patterns are revealed through words. The more you talk, the easier you are to anticipate, the easier you are to emotionally steer, the easier you are to control. This is why silence has always been associated with authority. Kings spoke less. Leaders paused before answering. Strategists listened more than they talked, not because they lacked words, because they understood words lose value when overused. Emotional speech is self-sabotage one. Emotion controls your mouth. Your enemy doesn't have to do anything. Anger makes you loud. Fear makes you explain. Excitement makes you promise. Sadness makes you confess. And once spoken, words cannot be retrieved. The strongest people train themselves to feel deeply but speak selectively. They let emotions pass before words leave their mouth, because a word spoken in emotion is usually a word you will pay for. Later, silence builds mystery. Mystery builds respect. People respect what they can't fully understand. The moment you explain everything about yourself, you remove mystery. No mystery gives no curiosity. No curiosity gives no respect. Silence makes people think about you, wonder about you, measure their words around you. That alone shifts the power dynamic. When you talk too much, people feel comfortable. When you speak less, people become careful. Carefulness is respect in disguise. Most conflicts start with unnecessary words. Think carefully. Most arguments didn't start because something had to be said. They started because something could be said. A comment, a reaction, a correction, a clarification nobody asked for. Silence would have killed the conflict before it was born. But the mouth wanted to win. And in trying to win, it created loss. The first discipline: pause before you speak. Power starts with a pause, not silence forever, not weakness, not avoidance. A pause, a moment where you ask, is this necessary? Does this benefit me? Will this give someone leverage? Can silence do more than words here? If the answer is unclear, don't speak. Silence is never urgent. Speech often is, and that's why it's dangerous. Where this leads, next so far, you've learned one thing clearly: your mouth doesn't protect you, it exposes you. But here's the deeper truth we're moving toward. It's not just what you say, it's when, why, and to whom you say it. That is where real damage begins. Because the moment your speech becomes predictable, you stop being a person and start becoming a pattern. And patterns are easy to exploit. The world doesn't overpower people directly. It studies them first. It watches what makes them speak, what makes them defend, what makes them brag, what makes them confess. And the mouth, more than anything else, reveals the pattern faster than time ever could. Most people don't realize this, but they speak in cycles. They repeat the same explanations, the same emotional reactions, the same stories. Over time, others learn exactly how to trigger them. One sentence pulls anger. One question pulls justification. One compliment pulls oversharing. And once that map is drawn, control is simple. Predictability is not comfort. Predictability is exposure. The moment people know how you'll respond, they stop respecting you. Respect lives in uncertainty. Power lives in hesitation. When others don't know what you'll say, they measure their words. When they know exactly how you'll react, they speak freely and often carelessly around you. This is where your mouth quietly betrays you. Talking too much turns your inner world outward. Your opinions, values, insecurities, goals, and fears stop being private assets and start becoming public information. And public information is never neutral. It is either used or ignored, and it is rarely ignored. Look carefully at how people test others. They don't confront immediately. They throw small verbal probes. A subtle insult, a dismissive joke, a casual question that sounds harmless. The purpose is not conversation, it is measurement. They're watching how fast you react, how emotional you become, how much you reveal. If your mouth answers every probe, you fail the test. Silence, hesitation, or controlled minimal speech forces the other person to guess. Guessing creates uncertainty. Uncertainty slows people down. And when people slow down, they lose dominance. Most people mistake silence for weakness because they confuse noise with confidence. In reality, uncontrolled speech is emotional leakage. It shows where your buttons are, and once buttons are known, they get pressed. Think about arguments you've lost, not logically, but strategically. The moment you started explaining yourself too much, the power shifted. You thought more words would clarify things. Instead, they diluted your position. You gave the other person more angles to attack, more details to twist, more emotional signals to exploit. This is not accidental. Human beings are instinctively opportunistic. They may not consciously plan manipulation, but they naturally move toward advantage. When your mouth gives them tools, they will use them sometimes without even realizing they're doing it. Predictable speakers are the easiest to corner. They always defend when questioned, explain when doubted, react when challenged, justify when judged. That consistency feels honest to them, but to others, it feels controllable. Silence breaks that pattern. When you don't respond the way you're expected to, people lose footing. They don't know whether they've crossed a line or failed to provoke you. That uncertainty forces them to reassess their position, and reassessment is where power shifts. This is why seasoned negotiators, leaders, and strategists speak less than everyone else in the room. Not because they lack ideas, but because they understand that every word locks you into a position. The fewer positions you take publicly, the harder it is to trap you. Your mouth doesn't just reveal what you think, it reveals how you think. Sentence structure shows confidence or doubt. Tone shows emotional control or instability. Speed shows anxiety or composure. The more you speak, the more data you provide. Data is dangerous. People collect it silently. They remember what embarrasses you. They remember what excites you. They remember what makes you defensive. And later, sometimes much later, they use it at the exact moment you least expect. This is why people feel betrayed by conversations that seemed harmless. They forget that nothing spoken disappears. Words linger in memory, waiting for the right context to resurface. Silence denies that future weapon, another uncomfortable truth. Talking too much lowers perceived value. Scarcity creates worth. When something is always available, it feels cheap. The same applies to speech. When your opinions are constant, your presence becomes background noise. People stop listening closely because they assume they already know what you'll say. But when you speak selectively, your words carry weight. People lean in. They replay them. They quote them later. Silence amplifies speech. Constant speech destroys it. Most people think influence comes from speaking more. Influence actually comes from being heard. And being heard requires restraint. Predictability also traps you internally. When you talk impulsively, you commit yourself to statements you may outgrow. Then you defend them not because they're true anymore, but because you said them publicly. The mouth locks the mind into old positions. Strategic silence keeps you flexible. You can adapt without contradiction. You can observe without committing. You can change without explaining. This is freedom most people never experience because they keep narrating their thoughts in real time. There is also a social hierarchy element that people overlook. In any group, the person who talks the most is rarely the most powerful. They are often the most anxious to be accepted. The ones who speak less, but deliberately, shape the direction of the conversation without dominating it. Power doesn't rush to be heard. It waits to be needed. And when you are needed, your words matter. Talking too much also creates emotional exhaustion, not just for you, but for others. People associate your presence with noise, explanations, reactions. Over time, they begin to tune you out emotionally. That's when your words lose impact, even when you finally say something important. Silence preserves emotional capital. Another key point: predictable speech kills intimidation. Intimidation doesn't come from aggression. It comes from unreadability. When people can't tell whether you're calm or calculating, passive or preparing, they become cautious. Your mouth ruins that by clarifying everything when you instantly respond, instantly explain, instantly react. You signal transparency. Transparency feels safe, but safety removes respect. People don't challenge what they respect cautiously. They challenge what they feel comfortable with. Silence creates distance. Distance creates authority. This does not mean becoming cold or mute. It means mastering timing, speaking after thought, not impulse, responding when there is value, not pressure. Pressure is one of the biggest reasons people talk. Silence under pressure is rare. That rarity is what makes it powerful. When someone pushes verbally and you don't react, you force them to sit with their own words. Often, they reveal more than you ever could have by speaking. People talk themselves into mistakes when you give them space. Silence is not emptiness. It is a mirror, and many people don't like what they see when the mirror stays up too long. At this point, the pattern should be clear. Talking too much does not make you expressive. It makes you exposed. It makes you predictable. And predictability is the opposite of strength. Strength is being able to choose when to speak and when not to, without discomfort. Most people feel anxiety in silence. That anxiety controls them. Once you remove that discomfort, your mouth stops being your enemy and starts becoming a tool. But before you can use speech strategically, you must understand something darker and more uncomfortable something. Most people only realize after damage is done. People don't just listen to your words, they store them. Not consciously, not always with bad intentions, but permanently. Words don't disappear after they're spoken. They settle quietly into memory, waiting for the right moment, the right emotion, the right situation to resurface. And when they come back, they rarely return in your favor. This is where most people get blindsided. They believe danger comes from obvious enemies, from people who openly oppose them. In reality, the most damage is done by people who once nodded while you were talking, smiled while you were explaining, and listened while you were exposing yourself. Your mouth feeds them material. Every opinion you share becomes a reference point. Every confession becomes leverage. Every emotional reaction becomes a blueprint. You may forget what you said. They don't. And the reason is simple. People remember information that gives them an advantage, especially emotional advantage. Your words help them understand how to move you, how to corner you, how to win against you without ever raising their voice. This is not paranoia. This is human nature. Think about how people argue. They don't invent weapons. They recycle your words. You said this. You admitted that. You always say. Suddenly, something you said casually becomes a fixed identity, a label you never agreed to wear. And now you're defending yourself not against reality, but against your own past words. That's the trap. When you talk freely, you assume goodwill. You assume context will be remembered. You assume tone will be respected. None of that holds over time. Context fades. Tone disappears. Only the words remain. And words without context are easily distorted. Silence avoids this entirely. There is a reason experienced people speak carefully in rooms where nothing feels dangerous, because they understand something younger minds don't. Harmless environments don't stay harmless. Relationships change. Power dynamics shift. Today's ally can become tomorrow's competitor, critic, or quiet enemy. And your old words don't care about loyalty. They work for whoever wants to use them. People use your words against you in three main ways. First, they weaponize consistency. If you speak a lot, you create a long verbal history. Over time, it becomes impossible to remain perfectly consistent because growth changes perspective. But people don't allow growth easily. They pull your old words forward and accuse you of contradiction. You said this before, so why are you saying this now? Which one is the real you? Now you're trapped explaining evolution to someone who doesn't want understanding, they want control. If you had spoken less, there would be less to compare, less to accuse, less to trap. Second, they exploit emotional admissions. The moment you reveal what hurts you, what scares you, or what you struggle with, you think you're building closeness. What you're actually doing is giving someone a map of your emotional weak points. Most people don't use this immediately. That's why it feels safe. They wait, they store it. Then, one day during conflict, competition, or power struggle, that same information reappears, disguised as concern, jokes, or honest feedback. And suddenly, you feel exposed, smaller, off balance. You don't even remember when you handed them that weapon. But your mouth does. Third, they use your words to shape how others see you. This one is subtle and dangerous. People repeat your words selectively. They remove tone. They remove intention. They pass them on in a form that suits their narrative. You said something once, casually. Later, someone else hears a polished, sharpened version of it. Now you're being judged for something you never meant and you don't even know it's happening. Silence leaves nothing to circulate. Most reputational damage doesn't come from lies. It comes from truths taken out of context. And the more you talk, the more raw material you provide for that distortion. This is why powerful people are careful not just about what they say publicly, but what they say privately. Because private conversations are only private until they aren't. Your mouth assumes privacy. Reality does not guarantee it. Another uncomfortable truth. People remember your words more clearly than your actions. Actions are complex. Words are simple. Simple things stick. That's why one sentence can undo months of behavior. And once a sentence sticks, it becomes part of your identity in someone else's mind. You might change. They might not update. This is how your past self can sabotage your present. Talking too much also gives people emotional timing advantages. They learn when you're weakest, when you talk more, when you explain more, when you overshare, and they wait for those moments. They don't confront you when you're calm. They wait until you're tired, emotional, or seeking validation. Then they ask the innocent question that opens the door. And if your mouth hasn't been trained, it walks right through. Silence disrupts this cycle. When people can't predict when you'll open up, they can't plan around it. They can't harvest information at will. They lose strategic patience. Another key detail people ignore: words bind you socially. When you say something, others expect you to stand by it, even if circumstances change, even if new information appears. You're judged not by what's right now, but by what you once said. This is why impulsive speech is so expansive. You're not just speaking for the moment, you're creating future obligations. Silence creates no obligations. It gives you room to move, room to adapt, room to change without explanation. People who talk less are harder to trap socially. You can't easily accuse them of hypocrisy. You can't easily corner them with their own statements. You can't easily force them to defend something they never publicly committed to. This is why restraint is often mistaken for mystery, and mystery is intimidating. There's also a psychological imbalance created when you speak more than others. The listener feels informed. You feel exposed. Over time, that imbalance grows. They feel confident interacting with you. You feel increasingly transparent, and transparency, when unbalanced, turns into vulnerability. This is why some people feel drained after conversations. They gave too much. They talked too freely. They revealed without realizing it. Meanwhile, the other person learned more than they shared. Silence restores balance. It forces reciprocity, or it exposes exploitation. If someone only listens while you talk, ask yourself why. Information is power, and one-sided conversations are rarely innocent. At this point, one thing should be clear: your mouth is not neutral. It is either protecting you or positioning you for future loss. There is no middle ground. But silence alone is not enough, because silence without intention can look like avoidance. Silence without awareness can become passivity. What you need is not just silence, but strategic silence. Knowing when silence controls the room. Knowing when silence pressures others. Knowing when silence speaks louder than words. That is the line most people never cross, because it requires discipline instead of instinct. Instinct wants to react. Instinct wants to respond. Instinct wants to fill space. Strategic silence does the opposite. It resists the urge to prove, explain, or defend, and in that resistance, it quietly takes control. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the management of it. When you stay silent at the right moment, something immediate happens in the room. Attention shifts away from your mouth and toward other people's minds. They begin to think for you. They begin to wonder. And wondering is uncomfortable. Humans hate uncertainty more than disagreement. That discomfort gives you leverage. Most people believe control comes from dominating conversation. In reality, control comes from dictating emotional temperature. Silence lowers chaos, slows reactions, and forces others to reveal themselves. When you don't speak, people talk more than they planned. They explain more than they should. They correct themselves. They fill the space with their own insecurities. Silence turns the spotlight outward. This is why experienced interrogators, negotiators, and leaders pause deliberately. They ask a question and then say nothing. The silence stretches. The other person rushes to fill it. And in that rush, truth leaks out. The same principle applies in everyday power dynamics. When someone challenges you verbally, they expect resistance. When you don't give it, the script breaks. They either escalate, emotionally revealing insecurity, or retreat, revealing uncertainty. Either way, you gain information without giving any. Silence forces others to play their cards. First, most verbal battles are won before words are exchanged. They're won by who controls timing. The person who speaks second often controls the frame. They've seen the reaction. They've measured the tone. They've assessed the room. The person who speaks first often speaks emotionally. This is why silence immediately after provocation is powerful. It denies the other person instant gratification. Provocation seeks reaction. No reaction creates frustration. Frustration leads to mistakes. Silence also exposes intention. When someone says something harmless and you don't respond, watch what happens next. If they clarify, justify, or repeat themselves, it means they were seeking validation or impact. If they move on calmly, the statement was likely neutral. Silence becomes a filter. It separates genuine communication from manipulation. Words blur intention. Silence sharpens it. Another key element of strategic silence is status signaling. High-status individuals do not rush. They do not scramble to explain themselves. They assume their position does not require constant verbal reinforcement. Silence communicates self-sufficiency. Low-status behavior is loud because it is compensating. When you answer immediately, you signal availability. When you pause, you signal selectivity. Selectivity creates value. This is not about arrogance. It's about refusing to let others dictate your tempo. Control is dominance. People who speak quickly and constantly are reacting to the environment. People who speak slowly and deliberately shape it. Silence is the pause that lets you choose direction. Instead of being pushed into one, silence also protects emotional boundaries. Most emotional manipulation relies on drawing you into dialogue. Once you're engaged verbally, emotions get involved. Tone rises. Explanations multiply. Before you realize it, you're invested. Silence prevents emotional entry points. You don't argue with what you don't respond to. You don't defend against what you don't acknowledge. Silence starves unnecessary conflict, and conflict, contrary to popular belief, does not always make you look strong. Often, it makes you look reactive. Strategic silence is not passive. It is observant. While others are talking, you're collecting data. You're noticing patterns, inconsistencies, emotional spikes. You're learning who needs attention, who needs validation, who needs control. Speech gives away information. Silence absorbs it. This creates asymmetry. You know more than they do. Asymmetry is power. Silence also forces respect in group settings. When everyone speaks over each other, noise becomes meaningless. The person who waits, then speaks once with clarity, commands attention. Their words land harder because they are rare. Rarity amplifies impact. This is why silence before speaking matters as much as silence instead of speaking. A pause before your words signals intention. It tells others your speech is considered, not impulsive. People listen differently when they sense deliberation. Another overlooked benefit of silence is credibility protection. When you speak on everything, your authority on anything weakens. When you speak only on what matters, your words carry weight. Silence filters relevance. You don't need to comment on every topic, correct every mistake, or assert every opinion. Doing so lowers your signal-to-noise ratio. Strategic silence preserves it. Silence also denies. Manipulators, their favorite tool. Emotional hooks. Manipulation thrives on reaction, on escalation. Silence cuts the loop. Without engagement, manipulation collapses. This is why manipulative people often accuse silent individuals of being cold, arrogant, or unfair. Those labels are pressure tactics. They are attempts to force verbal compliance. Once you understand this, those accusations lose power. Silence does not need to justify itself. Another critical point. Silence reveals confidence without confrontation. You don't need to announce strength. You demonstrate it by not needing to speak. Confidence that doesn't need validation is intimidating because it's untestable. People don't know where the edge is, so they tread carefully. This changes how people treat you. They think before speaking. They measure jokes. They reconsider challenges, not because you threatened them, but because silence created uncertainty. Strategic silence also allows recovery from mistakes. When you speak less, errors fade faster. When you over-explain mistakes, you extend their lifespan. Silence lets situations pass. Time favors the quiet. Words keep wounds open. Silence lets them close. There is also a psychological effect on yourself. Silence trains emotional control. It builds patience. It reduces impulsive decisions. When you don't let your mouth lead, your mind stays in charge. This internal control reflects externally. People trust those who trust themselves enough to pause. But silence must be intentional. Random silence feels awkward. Strategic silence feels grounded. The difference is presence. When you are fully present, silence feels natural. When you're absent mentally, silence feels empty. Presence gives silence weight. This is why eye contact, posture, and calm breathing amplify silence. They communicate that you are choosing not to speak, not that you have nothing to say. Choice is power. At this stage, you should understand something clearly. Silence is not about disappearing. It's about positioning. It's about deciding when words add value and when they subtract it. Most people talk to be included. Strategic people speak to influence, and influence doesn't require volume. It requires precision. Precision is the final discipline. Silence taught you restraint. Now precision teaches you purpose. This is where your mouth stops being a liability and becomes a controlled instrument used only when the outcome favors you. Most people speak to release pressure. Strategic people speak to create results. Every word you choose either moves a situation forward, shifts power, or weakens your position. There is no neutral speech. If your words don't create advantage, they create exposure. Mastery begins with intention before speaking. The disciplined mind asks 3 questions, quietly, instantly. What do I want this to achieve? What could this cost me later? Is silence stronger right now? If the answer isn't clear, the mouth stays closed. This is not fear. This is calculation. People who master their mouth don't speak to be understood. They speak to be effective. Understanding is optional. Effect is mandatory. One of the biggest mistakes people make is explaining their thinking. They believe clarity builds trust. In reality, over-clarity reduces authority. When you explain everything, you remove room for interpretation. Interpretation is where influence lives. Leave space. When you speak with precision, you say enough to direct action, but not enough to reveal motivation. You give conclusions, not processes, outcomes, not inner dialogue. This keeps you unreadable while still impactful. Another rule of mastery: never speak to defend your ego. Ego-driven speech is the fastest way to lose control. When your identity feels threatened, your mouth rushes to protect it. That rush exposes insecurity. Insecurity invites challenge. Let your silence do the defending. Strong positions don't require verbal protection. Weak ones do. When criticized unfairly, most people respond emotionally. They justify, they correct, they argue. The master pauses. Sometimes they say nothing. Sometimes they ask one short question. Sometimes they agree partially without elaboration. Minimal response, maximum disruption. Precision also means choosing when not to clarify. Ambiguity can be power when used intentionally. Not confusion. Confusion repels. Ambiguity attracts attention and respect. When people ask questions that don't serve you, you don't owe them answers. You owe yourself position. A precise speaker understands audience. They don't speak the same way to everyone. They don't reveal the same depth. They don't show the same cards. Words are layered. Not everyone deserves access to the same layer. This alone protects you from most social damage. Another principle of mastery is emotional delay. Feel fully, but speak later. Emotions are not the enemy. Unfiltered emotional speech is. When you delay speech, emotion settles into clarity. What remains is truth without volatility. That truth is dangerous in a good way. People feel it when words are calm but firm. They sense control. They sense certainty. They don't challenge it easily. Mastery also means knowing when to end speech. Most people talk past the point of impact. They say the powerful thing, then dilute it with extra words. Precision means stopping at the peak. Let silence carry the weight of what you just said. The strongest statements often need no follow. Dash up. Another critical skill. Never speak from urgency unless urgency serves you. Urgency exposes need. Need weakens leverage. Calm speech, even in high-pressure moments, communicates confidence. Confidence shapes outcomes. You don't rush because you don't fear loss. This attitude alone shifts negotiations, conflicts, and relationships. Precision also applies to honesty. You don't lie unnecessarily. Lies require memory. Truth, delivered selectively, requires discipline. You tell the truth that strengthens your position and withhold the truth that weakens it. This is not deception. It is self-respect. Your inner world is not public property. As mastery develops, something interesting happens. People start coming to you differently. They speak more carefully. They listen more closely. They wait for your response instead of talking over you. Your silence trained them. Your precision commands them. This is influence without force. You'll also notice fewer regrets. Fewer moments replayed in your mind. Fewer "I shouldn't have said that" thoughts. Peace increases when speech decreases, because the mouth, when controlled, stops creating unnecessary problems at the highest level. Mastery means your words align perfectly with your values and your goals. You don't speak to impress. You don't speak to vent. You don't speak to win arguments. You speak to shape reality in your favor. Everything else is noise. And now, the final truth. Your mouth was never your enemy by nature. It became your enemy when it was left untrained. Like any powerful tool, uncontrolled use causes damage. Controlled use creates results. Silence taught you restraint. Precision taught you purpose. Together, they give you authority. Most people lose power not because they are weak, but because they are careless with their words. They talk when silence would protect them. They explain when mystery would elevate them. They react when patience would dominate. Your mouth can destroy respect faster than failure ever could. But when mastered, it becomes one of your greatest assets. You don't need to speak less forever. You need to speak only when it matters. Let others talk. Let others reveal. Let others rush. You move when the outcome is clear, because in a world full of noise, the one who controls their mouth controls their position. And once you understand this, you will never speak the same way again.